Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black folks into the future. Today, I am really excited. That's an understatement for our guest today. I'm sure that our guest is known to many of you that are listening. He's a graduate of the American Film Institute, an adjunct professor at USC School of Dramatic Arts, and an adjunct professor at Stanford's Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design. Ahmed Best is a producer and host of Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge, which is a Telly Award winner. He's an executive producer, writer, and director of The Nebula, which is a web series. He's executive producer, writer, and director of This Can't Be My Life, which is also a web series. He's the writer of Sherlock and Holmes, which is part of Universal Studios Animation, writer of Captain EO, Disney Animation, writer, executive producer of the DL Chronicles, which is a GLAAD Media Award winner. He is the creator and director of Dinner at Lola, which is also a web series. And of course, he is the star of the Star Wars prequel, where he played Jar Jar Binks, which was the first CGI character in a motion picture. And he's star of the Broadway musical Stomp. He is Ovation, LACC Stage Raw, and Annie Award winner. And with that, please welcome and our guest, Mr. Ahmed Best. Ahmed Best, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today on Into the Afroverse, man. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I appreciate it. So, man, let's get right into it. I'm reading off all of these accolades. I'm looking at this fantastic life you've made for yourself when it comes to creating and so forth. What got you started?
Well, I've always been kind of an artsy / nerdy kid. Both my parents are artists. My mother is a visual artist as well as a musician. She was in this all-female percussion ensemble called Women of the Calabash when I was a kid, and I hung around them a lot. And I started as a musician. I'm a drummer, and I've been playing a lot of music since I was very small. Mm-hmm. But I've also acted and played music kind of simultaneously. And my father is a cinematographer by education and worked at ABC as a cameraman for 40 some odd years. So I was always around it. I was called to the stage actually as a performer when I was in high school. And then when I graduated high school and went to Manhattan School of Music, mm-hmm. I really felt like there was more to me. And then I auditioned for Stomp, and Stomp really just kind of opened everything up for me. It kind of really told me that I could have a voice and be myself and be able to do all the things that I love without having to compromise one thing or the other. And I've kind of followed that model up until today, and that's pretty much what I stayed true to.
Gotcha. What is it, in your opinion, about the arts that really speaks to people when you talk about, having that voice, getting out, that voice that's inside of you and so forth? What is it that you think that is so attractive for folks like yourself that are getting into this field, for the folks that are listening, that are perhaps looking at it as a possible field in terms of what they want to get into? What is it that speaks to you about this arena?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, as a performing artist, I'm in the emotions business, and my job, as I see it, is to be able to connect with my emotions and elicit the emotions of those who are watching / listening, right? Mm-hmm. And As an artist, I always feel like it is my job to ask big questions and not necessarily search for answers, just search for the stories within the big questions. And with that, I think we're doing a service to society because a lot of people don't have the time, nor do they have the circle, the inclination, the teachers in order to ask those questions and experience what those emotions are when we ask those questions. So what we do as artists is we provide that for the public who don't have the time to do it for themselves, don't know where to start, don't know how to start. And what I usually tell my students in my classes is this, that our job is to feel for those who don't have time to have those feelings, right? We have to put it out there. So if you're sitting in a theater or if you're watching something on a screen, you can relate to the stories that we are putting out there emotionally.
Mhm.
So as the conscience of society and as these askers of big questions, I think we help craft creatively what the future can bring and what the future can hold.
And now, you hear a lot of conversations around Hollywood and film and acting and so forth, where people are talking about, and some folks very critical of the way that blockbusters are taking over. For me, I'm excited with the variety of ways in which actors can now get their work out with streaming services and so forth. What is your take on the current state of entertainment when it comes to acting and filmmaking?
Yeah, the current state of it right now is it's in a tremendous transitional period. Um, the old paradigms of how things have been done in Hollywood are changing.
Mhm.
And the old guard is still looking to hold on to how things were, which is pretty much any industry. When every industry is in the midst of this flux,
Mhm.
the people who have had the most time in the industry and have made the most money in the industry are trying to find ways to hold on to it so it doesn't change. But everything, as Octavia Butler famously said, God has changed. So we have to move forward. And I believe film and television is in that transitional period right now. I believe that the gatekeepers who are making the decisions on what's made and what's not made, they're getting older, they're leaving, they're really trying to figure out what these new technologies are.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of times it comes at the expense of the artists, right? As an artist, we're constantly trying to find a way to get our work out there, and sometimes that doesn't coalesce with the corporate ideas of what they should be doing. They're thinking about money. We're thinking about emotions and conscience.
Yes.
So it's challenging when the two are at this impasse. But that's also the time for great innovation. That's also the time to find these other pathways and be excited about what's coming next. And I think that's where I am personally. I'm excited about what's coming next.
I see. I see. And the great thing about your career is you've had the opportunity to kind of see both sides, all sides when it comes to creative process, from big productions to smaller productions and so forth.
Yeah.
And I know for the folks that are listening, they definitely want to hear about your experiences and what led up to you becoming part of the Star Wars universe, what that
Yeah.
experience was like, and the aftermath of it. And once again, how you continue to grow since then. So what is it? How did you end up as part of the Star Wars universe?
Um, I was on stage in San Francisco doing Stomp, and the casting director was invited to the show. The casting director of Star Wars was invited to the show, and I had no idea that she was there. And after the show, she asked me to audition, and I honestly just auditioned like everybody else. But because Jar Jar was going to be something new in movies, and because George Lucas at the time, and I mean, even he's always kind of been like this, but he's very much the creator of culture. And
Mhm.
in that, he's very countercultural, right? So he doesn't do everything that everyone expects him to do, especially as a director. And I think a lot of times the industry hasn't seen his innovation with as much reverence as I think they should have. They see how much money he's made, but they
Right.
don't really see the contribution that he has to the art form in a way that they see like Scorsese or Coppola or Spielberg, right? Which
Right.
whom are his contemporaries, right? Aside from
Right.
Coppola. But George didn't want someone that everyone knew. He really wanted the technology and this new way of creating characters to be the star.
Mhm.
And the best way to do that is to find a new voice, which just happened to be me. And I came at it with, a very specific like physical approach.
Mhm.
And then later on added my voice to the character. But it really was about how to create the technology and the software as a team to make these CGI characters not only believable but relatable and emotional.
Mhm.
And it worked. So Jar Jar really changed the landscape of all movie making, because before Phantom Menace, no one ever thought about having a CGI main character in any film, right? They just thought it was like pretty much like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Right.
And then the biggest hurdle that I think we as a team, talking about me, Industrial Lights and Magic, and George Lucas, had to overcome was this idea that CGI characters were going to replace human beings.
Right.
That was the biggest beef with Jar Jar, was the fact
Mhm.
that, it's very interesting. I think it's a very colonial idea that if it feels as if it replaces, someone or something, then we have to kill it. And
Wow.
that was one of the things that was detrimental to the character and to the movie. Is this idea that they thought Jar Jar or characters like Jar Jar were going to replace human actors.
Right.
And so that was a big struggle, and no one really recognized the amount of time, technology, sweat equity, work that went into all of us as a team creating this,
Right.
very symbiotic performance.
I see. I see. And if you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, where we're taking Black folks into the future. And today's guest, once again, Ahmed Best. And you were talking about the challenge in terms of bringing Jar Jar to the screen and folks being concerned about uh, this new type of technology taking the place. And now it's commonplace. Now, people see it all the time. It's not a big deal. But yeah, you were really at the forefront of it. So the film comes out, and the character in particular, divisive in terms of the audience. What was that experience like?
It was hard. I mean, as a young man, my career was just beginning, and there was such a campaign against Jar Jar that it affected me in a way that I hadn't been prepared for. And to be honest, I don't think anyone could have been prepared for it.
Mhm.
Um, and the more years go by, the more I understand what the idea of destroying Jar Jar was about, and why it didn't take place with anyone else other than me. Andy Serkis, of course, the pioneer of motion capture, performance capture, because he just had so many opportunities to contribute to it,
Right.
right? But those opportunities didn't extend to me because the
Wow.
industry didn't want to deal with the backlash that happened to me during Phantom Menace, nor did it want to deal with possible backlash that could happen in any other respect, in any other sense. And the industry knows what to do with a British actor, right? Which
Right.
Andy
Right.
Serkis is. They don't really know what to do with a black actor, any black actor, regardless
Mhm.
of computer generated images. So, it's already challenging to be a black actor in movies. And now I was doing this type of acting that everyone thought was going to replace live action actors, and B, nobody really knew very much about.
Right.
So when I would walk into a room, the questions were like, what did you do and how did you do it? And I thought that was all computers, and like nobody really explained how me as an artist was the kind of GPU behind this whole thing.
Right.
And it couldn't have happened without me. It was kind of like the magic of George Lucas and ILM, and I was kind of superfluous. But that didn't happen after me. So
Okay.
it was an incredible challenge, me emotionally and career wise to have to figure out, all right, how do I move through this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in your opinion, has Hollywood figured out what to do with you
No.
since that time? They still haven't. In a word,
No.
they still
No.
haven't. So it's
No.
still been a challenge for you.
Yeah, I mean, and now I'm at the age where I can really enjoy and respect the challenge. Right.
Right.
At the time, I was kind of lost, but right now, I'm just like, I'm glad that no one has an idea because I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the skills now and the network to actually make my ideas happen. And I got to give George Lucas a lot of juice for this because I kind of learned from ancillarily from him
Mm-hmm.
that if you really want to make an impact, you have to be your own artist. And you have to be an artist that's willing to take the big chances, like the big risks, and watching him in real time do that was incredibly inspiring. And I was just like, well, if George can do it, I can do it. And
Right.
that really is what gave me the idea and the courage to kind of branch out on my own and do my own thing.
I see. And as the last Star Wars question, but I'm just curious, and I don't even know if you could speak to this. Is Jar Jar Binks done in the Star Wars universe? Once again, I don't know if you can answer that, but has there been any kind of rumblings or suggestions that you may be coming back?
No, nothing
Gotcha.
as of yet. And to be honest, I kind of enjoy being a fan.
Right.
I enjoy sitting back and watching. It was really wonderful to see Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen back on the screen together.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, like I started out as a Star Wars fan.
Right.
And to be back in the fandom is cool with me. You never know. I mean, once you're in, you it's like, it's like the
Right.
mafia.
Right.
But as of right now, no, I have no plans on coming back.
Gotcha. So what about the project since then? I'm looking at your bio, I'm reading the intro. A lot of stuff going on with you. You want to speak to some of the projects that you're currently working on?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that I'm working on right now, that I have so much passion for is I'm co-founder of this futurist company called the Afroverse Futures Group.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we create games and experiences that talk about crafting the future from an African, Afrocentric, diasporic perspective, right? And so the whole idea is abolishing white supremacy and abolishing the ideas of colonization, imperialism, and oppression that white supremacy has propagated, and moving into into the world of the Afro Rhythm Collective, which we define as liberating, right? A lot of times what we say is we replace algorithms of oppression with Afro rhythms of liberation. And when we run our game, which is called Afro Rhythms from the Future, everyone realizes how much of a constraint white supremacy has been on everything and everyone. Right? And it's not just Black folks or folks in the diaspora, it's on everyone, right? Colonization has really captivated imagination. And that's the biggest problem that we have right now in all of our societies. Our imagination is under this, thumb of oppression. And so what we've been trying to do and what we've been doing is freeing your imagination, freeing your creativity, and ushering out the age of colonization, imperialism, and the individual, and bringing in the new age of the Afro rhythm and the collective.
Excellent. You know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Um, just to wrap it up, that's what we want to do as far as like building the future.
Got you. Well, I just wanted to ask, in terms of going away with this colonization, as you put it, what are the steps? You know, what is it that you're doing to remove this colonization, to move us to this next level of liberation, as you describe it?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we do is we gamify it, right? And I think one strong point that I like to make in the academic space and in the futurist space is education and learning doesn't have to be painful and shameful, right? We can learn through fun. And when you have fun, it really disarms this idea of what should be, could be, right? It really disarms this idea of, I want to stay in my comfort zone. Fun helps you move to discomfort, right?
Right.
And so we gamify the idea of relinquishing white supremacy and oppression by playing our game, Algorithms from the Future, right? And the process of that is we remove everyone from the planet, the galaxy, from the level of existence that you believe to be what it's supposed to be, right? You believe it's real. Right. And we build a brand new universe based on prompts from our game, right? And that universe reflects the community that plays the game at the time. So we build a universe and we build a planet based on the people that we're talking to, right? Mm-hmm. And so we say, this community that we're playing with, y'all make the rules. You guys create the universe, you guys create the world, right? Let's leave planet Earth and 2023 behind for a little bit. And let's move into a future of our imagination, a future of our creativity. And so myself and my partner is Dr. Lonnie Brooks, who you might know from the Black Speculative Arts movement, and Jade Fabello. We create this experience and we play these games. And by the end of the game, we bring everybody back down to earth and we help them recognize the fact that creating without the lens of white supremacy is not only fun, but freeing.
Right.
And it seems to be working.
Excellent. Now, I'm sure folks are listening. How can we access this game? Where can we find it?
Yes, you can find it at our website, afrorhythms.org. You can contact any one of us. And we hold game events. We sell our game card deck. And we're always willing to talk and bring the game to you, right? We do corporate events, we do academic events, we've done a bunch of schools, we've done a lot of work with Google, we've done a lot of work with McCann worldwide, we've done some corporate work under their diversity, equity, and inclusion heading. And, what we like to do is take that whole idea of, checking boxes out of diversity, equity, and inclusion and taking people on a lifelong journey that is cumulative, right? So this work doesn't really end, right? As long as white supremacy and as long as oppression exists, this work will exist and we will continue.
And it's much needed, Now, when people hear game and they hear white supremacy and you are, as you put it, gamifying combating white supremacy, how are you able to walk this line to where it's entertaining, but at the same time, like not going overboard to the point where it loses its seriousness or its academic or educational value?
Yeah, a lot of people ask us that question before they play the game as well. Mostly they want to know whether or not we're going to make white people feel bad. That's the biggest question that everybody kind of dances around. It's like, well, if we're white, can we still play the game? And I'm generally like, oh, so you're wondering if I'm going to make white people feel bad?
Right. Right.
Well, my thing is, if white people feel bad playing our game, that's not on me,
Right.
right? That's the guilt that you have to deal with on your own, right? And if you're hanging on, if you're holding on to white supremacy so hard that you are refusing to imagine or create, that's a different conversation, right? That's something that
Right.
I can't do anything about. What I can do something about in these 60/90 minutes that we're playing our game is I can help you synthesize ideas and create artifacts that are devoid of white supremacy. And when you feel the future that way, you'll feel differently about it, right? And
Right.
as a performing artist, as I said earlier, I'm in the emotion business, right? And so my job is to get you to feel the future and to feel an optimistic future. I'm an optimist, you know,
Right.
by just happenstance and by life. I'm an optimist. So I really want to build a future that is optimistic. I really want to build a future that is forward, right? I'm trying to get to Star Trek. I'm trying to get to the Federation of Planets.
Right.
And so the goal is to get everyone who plays our game to want to do that work, right? It's not necessarily a destination, right? And this is one of the things that I have with Star Trek now, right?
Right.
We're always talking about the Federation once it's formed, right? I have no idea how they got there. I have no idea the bumps and the bruises and the setbacks and the crafting. I have no clue how we all got to agree, right? All we see in Star Trek is the Vulcans came down because we developed a warp drive, and then everything was hunky dory, and then Captain Kirk started kissing green women. Like that's all we know, right?
Right. Right.
But what I want to do, and what I'm uber interested in, is the path there, right? I want to know what those problems are, and I want to solve those problems, right? It's like that meme. I only want problems.
Right.
Only want those future problems. Like, how do we get there? What are the building blocks? What do we have to rewrite? What do we have to reimagine? What do we have to build in order to get to that place? And so that's the energy that I bring to Afro Rhythms from the Future. And so far, it's been well received.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. And one more time, how can people access this game?
Yes, if you go to www.afrorhythmsfromthefuture.org, and Afro Rhythms, AFRO, rhythm like algorithm, RITHMS, like Sam, from thefuture.org. You can go to our website. You can contact us there. You can buy decks. Our card game it's a card game right now. And you can also hire us to play with you, which is probably the best experience that you can have playing Afro Rhythms from the Future. In this year coming, we are going to be also increasing our Afro Rhythm consultation group. We're going to be teaching people how to play, and we're going to be certifying Afro Rhythm game masters and send them out there in the world. We really want people to start building optimistic futures without us, right? We want it to be in the hands of everyone. So and we're looking for the game to evolve. So we're going to be starting our teaching series and our consultation teaching series this year.
Oh, that is excellent. Well, Brother Best, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have time to do another interview with us?
Yeah. Yeah, I got some time.
All right. So, folks, if you're listening, be sure to tune in next week for part 2 of our interview with Brother Ahmed Best. And this is Will Jones Into the Afroverse. We're taking Black folks into the future. Special shout out to Mr. Duke Productions for producing today's show. And you can also catch this episode and all the other episodes on the Afrofuturism Network YouTube channel. So one more time, thank you, brother, and have a good day.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.